Hello YouTube, MeefMagnet here. Wanted to go through a quick AE2 guide today. Annie and I were actually talking about how it would be cool to sit down and kind of go through some of the starting setups for AE2 and move up into some of the bigger things. For example, like what we have in our expert Skyblock world. How to automate some of those machines, make things more efficient so that we don't actually have to do anything because we are probably the laziest Minecraft players on the planet. So what we wanted to do was actually go through, show some of the base materials, how to get some of the basic machines, and then actually start automating that stuff. So what I'm going to do right away is go through some of your early materials, go through the early machines, and then I'm actually going to go through towards the end of the video on how to actually build those and then set them up and get your first very basic AE2 network together. So let's get right into it. What you're going to need right off the bat is a bunch of quartz. So nether quartz, Certus quartz, charged Certus quartz. You are going to need access to the nether in order to get this if you're playing on a regular Feed the Beast mod pack that is not Skyblock. So keep in mind, you're going to have to go searching through the nether to get some of this stuff. You don't need a whole lot of it right away. Our best practice, I guess, is to find a stack as soon as possible, then come back and then just store it if we have the ability. Everybody knows the nether is real dangerous, so that stack usually it's strictly for that, and then get out of there. So Certus quartz you can find all over ore generation, depending on what your mod pack has it set at. It could be plentiful and then sometimes not. We play on Skyblock, so everything is done with sieves. Usually we can accumulate quite a bit of this stuff without a whole lot of effort. Just keep in mind that when you're out there digging, pick this stuff up if you can find it. A lot of times, with the bigger networks, you're going to use a lot of it. This charged Certus quartz. Whenever you find this stuff, you definitely want to pick it up, especially early game. You're going to need 2 of these right away in order to get some of the basic machines up and running. It's a main component of the charger. But once we've got the charger, you can make this stuff with a regular Certus quartz and then a certain amount of AE or RF. So once you got a couple of them, you should be in good shape. So for those of you that don't know, these are kind of your base materials. You can kind of see the difference between the 2 Certus quartz. So your regular Certus is kind of dull, and your charged Certus is a little bit brighter. This actual texture pack. From what I've seen, this is pretty much your standard though. You're going to need lots of this stuff, so just kind of keep that in mind. Whenever you see it, try and pick it up. A later game, it won't be such a big deal, especially if you got mining rigs going in different places. You should see a pretty steady stream of this stuff coming in. So this is your very basic materials. Let's take a look at this quartz grindstone. Early game, this thing is awesome. What you can do is, once you open this interface, your dust go in the top, you grind it, and it comes out the bottom. This is useful for ores too, because you can actually say take a block of iron ore, stick it in here, and you've got a 90% chance to come out with 2. So that 10%, it's 10%. Usually it's a really good way early game to double your ores. So if you can set one of these up right away, it's pretty useful. And they're actually pretty easy to make, depending on how your iron gears are set up. With Skyblock, it's a little more difficult. It requires you to actually have a Tinker's Table set up. But regular Feed the Beast, that's non-expert mode, I'm pretty sure you can actually make these iron gears quite easily. So there's a recipe for that. Just keep that in mind. Next up here is our Meteorite Compass. So the big deal with these things is, in order to get your presses like these, you're going to actually have to go out into the world and find meteorites. They kind of look like this. They're spheroid, and usually in the center there is a chest. Inside the chest you're going to see usually it's a couple of these. Odds of getting all 4 right off the bat are not really good, but you will need all 4 different presses in order to make this work right away. So the compass here, if I take this off here, you can actually see that it kind of points toward that meteorite. And this is a good tool to find those. Once you get out several chunks away, it'll reset to the next one that's close wherever it was generated, and you kind of just keep going. Do note that this is very time consuming. I think playing with Annie a couple times, we've spent maybe 12 hours looking for these, and then sometimes it's only taken like 40 minutes. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of a significant time investment in order to get those. So a couple components that are going to require some time, I guess, is the metric for it, are these pure Fluix crystals and pure Certus quartz. The way this works is you take your Fluix crystals or quartz, and I'll show you the Fluix crystals in a little bit here. What you have to do is you have to grind those down to the grindstone. Okay, once you've got them ground down, you have to combine them with sand to make seeds. Seeds go in the water, and then you wait. Now this can take a few hours in order to get these seeds to actually do anything. You throw them in the water, they don't despawn, they just sit there, but they accumulate a certain percentage of, I guess it's like a work percentage. Depending on how long it's been in the water, it's very random, I guess. But what takes forever can actually be automated later on to take just a couple minutes. But you are going to need this pure Fluix crystal and pure Certus quartz. Pure Certus quartz is used in all the calculation presses in order to make chipsets like, for instance, I'm pretty sure 1K storage cells use those. Then there's a lot of other stuff too, so just keep that in mind. These do take a long time to actually get done, so the sooner you can get these going, the better. And we'll just move on here. I'll show you how to do that at some point. The charger. So this is that machine I was talking about that allows you to actually make charged Certus quartz. So you put your Certus quartz in here, you get charged Certus quartz out at the cost of AE. The cool thing about these machines is that they all run off RF. You can see at the top here, resonant energy cell, output out the bottom. Usually you can put it on any side and it'll just take a charge. So you put your Certus quartz in, you get charged Certus quartz out. Handy machine, but this is one of the reasons you want to try and pick up charged Certus quartz as early as possible because it's required for this machine. So moving on here, this is the actual set of presses. So you've got your logic, calculation, silicone, and engineering press. The top of here, you see the materials that go in. The only note, I guess, for these is this silicone. The silicone is kind of a pain in the ass depending on what set of mods you actually have. AE2 does not supply silicone, as far as I know. Though I have never actually seen AE2 without Ender IO. So the silicone we use here is actually, this is Ender IO, yep. So in order to get that, you're probably going to actually have to check NEI. Let's just take a look here and see what a silicone, printed silicone, and it'll always show you what it'll take in here. So this silicone from Ender IO is the only valid silicone that can be used to make printed silicone. Depending on what mod pack you're playing, you're just gonna have to check NEI, take a look, see what's going on, and then make it that way. It's kind of a pain in the ass, but it's definitely worth it in the end. So just keep in mind, these are the main materials. You're going to need lots of this stuff along with these presses. So what we have here, this next basic machine is called the Inscriber. So what's going on here is in the top, you put a press. In the middle, you put a material. So you take a press, then you take a material. Press goes in the top. You can just shift click these in and then a diamond. Now, since I've got this hooked up to an RF energy cell, you'll see the progress goes up. And out comes a printed engineering circuit. This is kind of the basis for all of these circuits. These chipsets, they do get expensive, especially when you get into the higher tier storage cells. But it is absolutely worth it to not have to run around with 6 million stupid ass chests randomly littered about your base. So it's a significant investment, but at the same time, it saves you a ton of headaches in trying to organize. So keep that in mind. The next little portion of this is some of the materials that are required to make the Emmy controller itself. You're going to see this sky stone is made out of the same stuff as those meteors. Pick it up. every Emmy controller requires 4 of these sky stones, run through a furnace, smelt it out, and you get skystone block. This particular mod pack is Skyblock Expert mode. Let's take a look here. Our Emmy controller actually requires 4 skystone blocks. So when you take a look at this, we do need 4 of them right away. I think there's maybe one other machine that might require those. So if you can, pick this stuff up, depending on your mod pack. You might have to dig it. Otherwise, Skyblock Expert mode, we actually have to run that through some other stuff in order to get it. So keep that in mind. You do need some of it. It's not one of those high volume materials you need, but you are going to need some of it, especially if you want to increase your Emmy controller, which you are going to have to do if you want to actually spread stuff out across your base. So keep that in mind. These last materials here actually have to do with organizing and actually setting up your first Emmy network. So one of these first deals here is this Quartz Fiber. This is actually required in order to make your glass cable. Glass cable is your conduit or your transport system for all AE related stuff. In order to make this, it's actually pretty easy. It's usually just round quartz and glass. So if we take a look here, let's find our Quartz Fiber. This particular mod pack, all kinds of different glass, and our quartz dust is actually interchangeable. So the nether and the Certus, that'll get you 3 of them. The big deal with this Quartz Fiber is our glass ME cable. You take a look at that right here. Same thing, it's just 3 quartz and then 2 sets of fluix crystals. And usually, because so much of that stuff is used, you know, usually you want to make a whole bunch of it right away. And I don't ever make pure fluix crystals for use in glass cable. It's always just regular fluix crystals. Otherwise, it just takes way too long. It's just not worth it. So keep that in mind. You are going to need these to hook up anything if you want to move them around again. In order to actually get stuff in and out of your Emmy network right away to start with, you're actually going to need that Emmy terminal. These can actually be upgraded later on to crafting terminals, so you no longer need your workbenches or your crafting benches. You can do it all on screen and use it right out of your Emmy network. So these are very handy. These are actually pretty easy to make. We'll actually go through that stuff towards the end of this. Your Emmy Drive, this holds all of your storage chips. So these you actually want to have protected, because I have had it where creepers will blow these things up and they will kill your chips when they blow up, and then half your stuff is gone. So keep that in mind. You want to kind of protect these. Like I said, all your chips go inside here. You got up to 10, and you can actually string a whole bunch of these together, so you're not limited to only 10. It's literally limited to the channels on your Emmy controller. This here is actually a 1K storage cell. This is the smallest you can get. Usually Annieline and I try and upgrade these to 4K cells as early as we possibly can. What happens here is you are limited to 64 different types per cell, so that's 64 blocks or 64 different items per cell. 1Ks are actually pretty small, so you can get multiple stacks of the same items in there, but once you go over a certain amount, you're taking up another type. So even if it is the same type, if you have so much of it, it will consume another type. So we'll kind of get into that in a different guide. I'll show you what the deal is with storage and how to make that, a little more efficient. The last block we've got here is your Emmy controller. So this is the last part of the most basic Emmy network. These are significantly expensive, but once you get mid-game, it's really easy to add on to these. Once we get into how the channels work, knowing a little bit more about these would be beneficial. So, but that's it for some of the most basic machines in order to get this stuff going. So what I'd like to do is actually run back over. I've got a little area set up over here with some of the most basic machines. What I'll do is I'll go through and I'll actually show you how to set some of this stuff up. We'll grind up Certus quartz. We'll just make it happen from the beginning to the end. We'll set it up right along here, and we'll show you how to get some of this stuff set and ready to rock. Okay, so I think I've got everything pretty much set in order to get this rocking and rolling. And I can show you early game how useful this is. So we've got 1 iron ore, goes in the top. Right click on the wooden crank. Sit here for 3 hours doing this. Not really. This is Annie's job. He likes doing that. Sitting there. Oh, look at that. 2 iron dust come out of there. No problem. So we smelt these up. So rather than 1 iron ore or 1 iron ingot, we got 2. No problem. Okay. So that is there for early game. Utilize it. It is worth it until you can actually get yourself a pulverizer, macerator, or a sag mill. Use it. Definitely do. What I want to do is actually set this up, and it'll just be like I was starting out in a different mod pack, because I usually set these up the same way every time, and it usually works out pretty well. I can usually have an Emmy network up in a relatively short amount of time. So what I want to do first is actually go through. I can leave this up. I want to go through and actually make a charger. That's the first thing I always do. Okay, so this recipe, it's 5 iron and 2 fluix crystals. Usually I don't ever touch pure fluix crystals. If I absolutely have to, I'll do it, but otherwise I won't. I'll just use regular fluix. So in order to make these, in this particular mod pack, and again, always refer to your own NEI unless you're playing, in this particular mod pack, Skyblock, expert mode. This one is actually drop 1 charged Certus quartz, 1 other quartz, redstone dust into a puddle next to another, and wait to receive 2 fluix crystals. So that's pretty simple, and you don't actually have to do anything with these right off the bat other than just throw them in. The reason we want 2 of these charged Certus quartz crystals is because right away you've got the 2 you're going to use in the charger, and then you've got the 2 spares. So that's just usually what I do. This is pretty simple. You got this water right here. What we're going to do, I'll throw these actually into my hot bar. Throw these in. Throw those in. Bam. 4 of them. So that's the easiest way to make fluix crystals. It's fast. You can literally throw stacks of these in to make like multiple stacks of these crystals. Usually that's what I'll do as soon as I have a sizable amount. I'll just make a whole bunch of fluix crystals because it's used in tons and tons of stuff. So that's there. Let's see. So we've got our fluix crystals in here. Let's make a charger right away. Okay, so there's our charger. Cool thing about AE2 stuff is it's available to be used with RF. So what I'm going to do is use this very, very expensive flux duct, and we'll hook our charger in there. Seems it does not attach to that. Alright, get out of there. We're going to go like this since we got lots of it. Let's put this on the top. There we go. There it goes. So it contains 1.5K AE. So again, these are interchangeable. It's got to be top or bottom. And you can tell because of the ports top or bottom. Later on, I'll show you how to actually automate this. But for right now, I'm just going to get this basic ME network set up. So we've got our charger. Sweet. What's next? Next, we probably want to do this Inscriber. And you'll notice in this actual set of mod packs, these Inscribers are incredibly expensive. You're looking at Resonant Machine Frame, which in Skyblock Expert Mode is like 50 million RF. These overclocker upgrades are also kind of expensive because they require 10K coolant cells with a whole bunch of IC2 coolant. Refer to your mod pack or your NEI in your particular mod pack because it's going to be different. Expert Mode, it's a little bit ridiculous what they put in here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch over to creative mode real quick here, and I'm actually going to spawn one of these bad boys in. Just because nobody wants to watch me sit there and craft all that crap. Let's go like this. Okay, so again, refer to whatever it is in your mod pack. This one's actually pretty ridiculous, but the materials should be somewhat similar. Your pure Certus quartz here is what the big deal is. So what we'll do is I'll show you how to make these. I'm gonna get this guy. We'll set this one. Throw him right on top of here. Okay, so he's got a charge to 1.5k AE. So let's pick up some pure Certus quartz. Let's see what we got here. Easiest way to make these guys. So you drop a Certus quartz seed made from Certus quartz dust and sand into a puddle of water. You can use growth accelerators, which I'll show you later on. This will cut the time down significantly. So let's take some Certus quartz here. We'll just do 2 of these out the bat so I can show you what's going on here. So 2 and 2. What we want to do is we'll throw this guy in there, and we'll get to grinding. And again, this is that monotonous crap. Annieline likes to do this stuff. Just kidding, he absolutely hates it. So what we can do is you can craft this wherever you like. Big deal is it's 1-to-1, so 1 quartz dust to 1 sand, and that'll get you these Certus quartz seeds. So we'll just take those out. Oops. Okay, so we got 4 of them here. If you notice this tooltip, so the item won't despawn 0%. What we want to do, we'll throw these guys in the water. They'll kind of group up. They won't despawn. What you want to kind of look for is if you look close, you can kind of see that little bubble action going. That means it's working. Sometimes I've got it where it looks like I've thrown it into the water and it'll end up kind of on the sides. Just make sure that when you're looking at it, it's making those little bubbles. That makes sure that stuff's in there. Now the thing about this is this is a horrible, horrible amount of time to actually sit and wait for these seeds. If we pick these up, I don't think they've done anything. And they probably won't. This takes a long time. The sooner you can get these things into the water, the better. If you can come up with a grindstone and start grinding Certus quartz, as soon as you've got your first base up, make an unlimited water supply and just get this crap in the water, because literally it takes hours. Fortunately, I've already got this stuff spawned in, so we don't have to worry about that. But this is what it shows up once it's done. It'll show up as pure Certus quartz crystal. We need lots of it. It's used in all the calculation processors, and then like the Inscriber, that's actually it's actually used for that. So these recipes should be similar. I'm not sure what this looks like outside of this mod pack. I know some of this stuff isn't here, but I do know the sticky pistons are there. So, but that's the Inscriber. We need that for all the presses. We'll just let these go. We'll see if we can get these to change. See if they go up a percentage. I'll kind of show what that looks like. But anyway, the big deal is to get this guy up and running. So we've got an Inscriber. What we need now, on our way towards the ME controller, this is going to be a little bit different again, but a lot of these components are the same. So this particular mod pack is requiring engineering processors, pure fluix crystals, and then some skystone block. So let's go ahead. We'll make our 4 skystone block. And again, I'll show you how to make these fluix crystals, because it is very much the same as making pure Certus quartz. So let's smelt up some skystone. Slowly but surely. And since I've got a pulverizer here, I'm just going to do this right away real quick. We'll grind these guys up to make those. Let's get our fluix seeds. And again, this item won't despawn 0%. It's the same thing as these other ones. You can do them with the nethers too. I don't have a whole lot of use for the nether stuff because I always have usually pretty good access to regular Certus quartz. So as long as you see the bubbles, 2 sets there for 2 different stacks. We'll just let those guys go. Okay, so we've got our skystone blocks. Let's check one more time. So we need 2 pure fluix crystals. Unfortunately, I have 2 of those right here. Okay, the thing we don't have, calc processors. Oh, engineering, sorry. In order to actually get these, we're going to have to make them. So we're going to throw these inside of our Inscriber, and I don't think I have those over here. So we're going to go rob these. these out. Take all 4. We're only going to need the one right away, but we'll just bring them over here. Okay, so engineering processors. We're going to need 2 diamonds for this. We'll also need 2 redstone. We're also going to need some silicone, which I did not actually put in here, so let's pull that out quickly. Let's go like that. And change game mode back. Okay, so we got that. Okay, so the way the Inscriber works is, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Presses go in the top and materials go in the middle. This is going to change a little bit when we actually go through this the second time to actually make the chipset. So we've got the engineering press in. Let's throw a diamond in there. Since this is hooked up to power, you can watch this progress bar go. Alright, we've got 1 engineering circuit. Let's do 1 more. This gets to be kind of time consuming, but you can see you've got some upgrade slots here on the far right side. You can put acceleration cards in there to make this go really fast. As soon as you can do it, it's worthwhile to do it, especially once you're getting into some of the higher storage cells, because it requires a whole lot of these different circuits. Okay, so we are done with our engineering press. Let's put this silicone press in here. Let's get some of this silicone moving. This printed silicone is actually going to get sandwiched together with redstone and these engineering circuits. Alright, so we've got 2 printed silicone and 2 printed engineering circuits. So let's pull this other press out. Here's where it changes up a little bit. The Inscriber does dual duty, so you can use the presses and then you can use it to actually make these other chipsets. So what we're going to do is we'll just shift click this in. It doesn't matter if it goes on the top, that's where it goes. And then we'll shift click the silicone. So we got top and bottom here. And then what we want to do is we want to throw redstone in there. Shift click that. It should go in the middle every time. And this kind of becomes relevant once we're actually automating this stuff. It gets a little more complicated. But in order to keep in mind that the redstone goes in the middle, it's just easier to know that, because once the automation is done, you can only put it in from the side. So, but there we go. We've got 2 engineering processors. Alright, so let's throw these guys in here. So I need them for a little bit. So we've got that. This particular mod pack is using a Certus quartz wrench, which is incredibly expensive if you are actually playing this mod pack. Stupid amount of materials. This took Annie and I a long time to build. I'm thinking it was almost a week of playing at like 6 or 7 hour sessions, and then a couple weekends to get to this point. So, but anyway, spawn this in just to show it. So let's get this guy in here. I gotta look this up because I've been drinking. I'm kidding, I haven't yet. It's still early. But anyway, there it is. So we got Emmy controller, and the wrench comes back. Let's throw this guy in here. Okay, so we've got our first Emmy controller. Just gonna set this up a little bit further down the line, and then we'll drag this flux duct out. Okay, so once you've got this thing hooked into some power, and you can use energy acceptors from the actual mod pack itself, but like I said, we use RF. RF is really easy to use with these. You don't have to do anything. It works. So plug these guys in. You know it's working when your Emmy controller lights up. You get all these multicolored things going on. You know it's on. So that's ready to rock. Now what we need next, let's get some daylight here. Next, what I want to do is I want to come up with an Emmy Drive. So this is going to take 2 more engineering processors and then 2 glass cables, so the fluid style. We can do that. We can get this set up, get this guy going. And looks like we'll use these pure fluix crystals because I actually have these on hand. transfer back and forth a couple times. But anyway, we'll make a couple. Do a couple more of these. Engineering press, a couple more diamonds, some redstone. Okay, we'll just start throwing this stuff in here and get it done quick. So you're gonna notice that setting these up right away is actually kind of time consuming. If you can batch processes, it's the best. You can actually make multiple inscribers and run these and get a little bit better throughput. Early game it's kind of tough as resources do get limited, but as soon as you do have the ability, if you're actually wanting to make a big network, which is absolutely worth it, you're going to want multiple inscribers. One for each press is awesome, and then one for each chipset. So one for the actual processor. For a total of 8, it usually works out pretty well. 2 for silicone, that's usually will get you by. We found that anything less, if you're doing really massive builds, it's you're going to be hurting for silicone every time. So keep that in mind. All right, let's check this out one more time. So we need Emmy glass cable. So here comes our quartz fiber. What we're going to need here, some ground quartz, dust, and glass. So let's do that right now. Let's just use regular quartz. We don't need a whole lot, but I'm actually going to do 2 sets worth. That should be okay. 6. Get these guys through there. Let's run through pulverizer. So AE2 has its own set of glass called quartz glass that is required for storage cells. Those will be more relevant later on, but for right now, for basic cables, regular glass will work well, and a lot of the Ore Dictionary glass that does revert to regular Minecraft glass will work in these recipes. So there's that. Let's throw these. Let's get those out of the way. Throw these on the table. And we'll get this glass cooked out. Let's pull those out. Okay, so there we go, quartz fiber. Let's pull those out. So, our actual Fluix cable here, our glass Fluix. If we, let's find that recipe. There it is. So we can use either pure Fluix crystals or Fluix crystals. It doesn't matter. I just happen to have spawned in these pure Fluix crystals rather than the other kinds, so I'm just going to use these. You can use either. Double check NEI just in case. You know, it could be different, but this is actually expert mode, and I'm about positive that the recipe hasn't changed. So there we go. Picked up 8 glass cables. We're gonna need a little more to actually hook some of this stuff together if we want to spread it out. But let's just get the get this Emmy Drive rocking and rolling here. Just a reference again. Make sure we're doing this right. There we go. So there's our Emmy Drive. What I like to do for these very first ones, just because I don't have to drag anything out any farther, you just set that guy right there. No problem. Okay, so we've got a controller and we've got a drive. So the next thing I like to do is usually build up a set of chipsets. Or storage cells, I mean. Let's take a look and see what that requires. Okay, so this is going to require a little bit of quartz glass. So quartz glass, so we've got 5 ground Certus quartz and then more glass. And let's see here. So our 1K Emmy storage component actually requires 1 logic compressor and then just quartz and redstone. So let's get our logic press going here. We'll do 2 of these right away, just because that makes things a little bit easier. We will need our silicone, but rather than that, let's pull our logic press. And again, this does take some time. I would have actually put on another inscriber, but I kind of wanted to show how long this actually does take. It is time consuming, just so that you are aware. It does take a little bit of time. Okay, while that's going on, let's actually get, we're going to do some more glass. Let's pull this guy out of here. And we'll do 10 of those. Let's get those grinding. Oops. Looks good. Take those, take our glass. Get us 8 of those. Alright, let's check this one more time. Okay, so Certus quartz and redstone. Let's use the cheap stuff. And then redstone. Okay, so we've got 2 1K Emmy storage components. Alright, let's get them into some storage cells. I find it easier just to craft them straight into storage cells. What you can do, there's actually a housing that you can use, and you just combine them in your inventory. Here it is right here, Emmy storage housing. It's literally the same thing. You can craft these, keep them off to the side, and then as you go through, you can actually pull these storage components out of the housings and recycle them. So it is worth it. I usually keep a few of these left over in the ME network, just as I go through and upgrade stuff. You can take them out and you can replace them with some of the upgraded chips. So just keep that in mind. Anyway, this is the recipe, and then we'll just put that 1K storage component right in the middle here. So let's go ahead and do that. Actually, we better do 2, so we got enough room for both. There's that. There's that. So this guy shows up as this could be the housing you could take. Otherwise, let's put these in there. So this is automatically usable storage. So let's pull both of those out of there. Alright, so let's run over to our drive. We just shift click these in. Alright, so these are ready to rock and roll. You'll see that 1024 bytes used and 0 of 63 types. What you could do is you can actually partition these cells. We'll get to this later on, but you can actually get pretty complicated with this. So for right now, what I'll explain is that the amount of storage here is based on bytes. The higher you go, the more you can store. 63 types is pretty much bound throughout the entire tier. Even with the extra cells, it's still bound to 63 types. There's just a lot more storage space in the amount of bytes. So we've got an actual working Emmy Drive with a couple chips in it. So now we need to actually interface with this. So we need to make a Emmy terminal. And these aren't real complicated. They're more or less time consuming. Biggest part here is actually these illuminated panels. These bright illuminated panels, however it is, you want the illuminated panel to start with. And then you can actually switch them depending on what you want. We don't ever care, Annie and I, we just throw them together because they end up being crafting terminals at some point anyway. You just know where they are, we just go to them. So we only need to actually make one right off the bat just for a basic network. So this is kind of the same set of components. So we need quartz glass, glowstone, redstone, and iron. So let's do that right now. And let's get our quartz out there. I actually got to look at this again. Okay, so there's our 3 illuminated panels. Let's take those, go back to our ME terminal. Our formation cores, these require logic processors and Fluix dust. These don't actually matter. Whether it's pure Certus or charged, it doesn't. It's indifferent as to what's actually going on there. Annihilation core is actually pure or regular nether quartz with logic processor. So we need another think it's three more logic processors, and 2 sets of Fluix dust. So let's go ahead and do that. Grab one more of those. Okay. And we'll just go like that. So let's throw these. Ooh, those don't actually break down. Interesting. Okay, well, what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and borrow some. So regular Fluix crystals are the only thing that'll grind. And like I said, I don't ever use pure, I just happen to have them. So keep that in mind. Only regular Fluix crystals will run through pulverizer or grindstone, not pure. So we'll just cheat that through because we can. Get some light on the subject here. As soon as I'm able to afford some acceleration cards, I absolutely throw them in here just to make this process go a little bit faster. Get these processors built. Get our terminal all set up, and we can start throwing stuff into our Emmy network. Pull those out. Those ready to go, and in the meantime, let's get our quartz out. And we'll use the cheap stuff. Start with that guy. You can kind of tell I haven't been using a crafting table for a long time because I keep forgetting that this chest is actually an attached inventory. Alright, let's get these ready to rock. So there's our Annihilation Core. These are pretty much standard through all the mod packs I've ever seen. This is just pretty much the same recipe. And let's do a Formation Core. Okay. So we've got a little bit of extra material here, which is not a problem because once we have one more logic processor, we can actually just build another Emmy terminal right away. So this is all ready. What we can do here is there's a few ways to do this. You can actually attach these wherever you want. If you want to throw this on the front of the Emmy controller, you absolutely can. You could actually throw this on the Emmy Drive. It won't make a damn bit of difference. But since I don't like looking down at stuff all the time because I'm weird, I prefer to actually throw a glass cable on there, and then we'll select our ME terminal, put that right on the front. You can look at way at the top. You can see that the device is online. ME terminal, device online, not harvestable. You can pull these off with the crescent hammer, just like that. You can use AE2's wrench. I just like the crescent hammer because that's what I've used for a long time and just works well for me, so that's just familiar. Anyway, since this device is online, here we go. You can actually see that we can throw stuff in here. So we can throw in all this stuff. Let's look and see what it took up. So 64 bytes, 6 of 63 types. Depending on, and there's some math that's involved with this that I'll get into a later guide. You can actually figure out how much storage you're using per each item type. So, but we'll save that for another guide. But anyway, here it is. This is your small, tiny little basic ME network. And you can expand this out. You can get rid of all those dirty chests you've got laying around your base. Throw them in your ME network. Build out some more 1K chips if you have to. Upgrade them to 4K. We'll probably show some of that in this next video here. But yeah, there's the start of it. So this is MeefMagnet. I will catch you all later.